This is the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast, and we're here to build autonomous athletes and put phenomenal programming into every garage, basement, and spare bedroom out there. I'm Jerred Moon, and I'm with Joe Courtney. We are strength and conditioning coaches who have turned over 20,000 people into garage gym athletes over the last decade. And we're here to reduce the information overload that exists in the health and fitness industry today. We're going to do that by covering relevant science and give actionable takeaways, not only from the data, but from our years of experience. So let's dive in. Welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Today, we're diving into a study that was titled Physiological Characteristics of a 92-year-old four-time world champion indoor rower. And be highlighting the fascinating story of Richard Morgan and how it applies to science, fitness, you and people you may know. But before we get into that, wanted to just do a quick update on training, life. Joe, how are things, man? You pretty settled in now?
Yeah, good. The goods and the bads. I mean, we're reaching like amazing weather right now, so it's pretty nice. Even though my gym's still in a very stuffy garage, it's still really nice. Like, it's not crazy muggy, crazy hot yet. I don't know how hot it will get, but training's good. My wrist is really giving me some bad issues. Like, I'm gonna have to get a doctor's appointment, even though I'm going out of town for like 3 weeks. But I can't even do like planks or push-ups right now, or front knee and rest or push-ups right now. Like, I can't put that much weight on it at all. It's gotten progressively worse. I don't know what the heck's going on with that, but just another thing.
You need to get Chris Morrissey's wrist wraps.
Yeah, I was wondering. I have all kinds of different. Actually, I have his, and then I have some other ones that were just like that cloth that you kind of tighten. And I've been meaning to put one on and to see if that helps much, but like, it's still like not good, not optimal. Not a fan, but I will give that a shot.
I have no idea. The bigger question.
So this is an injury.
You can't blame Garage Gym Athlete training because you've been doing random crap for the last 2 months because of your travels. I'm not saying you don't stick to the program. I'm just saying when you're traveling, it's very hard to do like straight up hard to kill track or something like that.
Yeah, technically this injury goes back to a year and a half ago, and it was during my drill weekend, so they're actually at fault. I just never reported my injury because I didn't think it was that bad. But yeah, so it like healed for a while and it was good, and then a month or two ago it flared up, and now it's gotten a little bit worse, and I have no idea why or what the incident was that happened. So something underlying I'll have to get checked out. But I did do a bunch of intervals run today, and on the positive side, that went really good. So feeling strong there.
Is that from hard to kill, or you just did your own thing?
No, I just did my own thing. It's deload week right now, and because of travel coming up, I feel pretty fresh. Like, we're actually really fresh this week. So, and I haven't done too many sprints because of either my heel or other things going on. We did a trip a couple weeks ago, so I went and did 400s today, and they felt really good. I did 10 400s, and I think my splits were faster than splits that I've done in a long time. I stayed really consistent. It felt real good. Felt real fast. Probably still had a little bit. I mean, I had enough in the tank so that I improved each of them, but then my very last one, I just really let it go, and it still felt pretty good. So that felt real good.
Yeah, I like running fast. Long, not as much. Couple 100s, 400s. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm also gonna have my Air Force PT test coming up in about 10 days or so. 10 or 11 days. So like, I need to, and now I know like my pacing of what I need to do to hit my goal time for that. And so I was thinking about that while I was running up. And at one point, like my slowest pace during those, I was like, this feels kind of comfortable. And it was sort of like my pace that I need to run for my 1.5 miles. Now, granted, I'm only doing quarter miles versus 1.5 miles, but still, like, it made me feel a little bit better, especially because like running so fast, doing those, I think it just helps. Even running, like, if I dial it back a little bit, I'll be able to, it'll help me maintain my pace a little bit better than like if I just went and did a bunch of zone 2 days, 4 to 5 miles kind of thing.
Yeah, man. And like, you can, if the fitness is there, what's cool is like, you have a Garmin, right? So you can program this stuff in to like set the exact pace that you need. You could change pace per lap to where like it shows you the instantaneous pace that you're running. Like, I wish I had this level of technology while I was still in the Air Force, because it would have helped me. Like, I mean, you have to have the fitness level to be like, okay, I want to run a 6-minute mile on every lap. Like, you still have to be fit enough to do that. It's not like, oh, I have the watch, it will help. But I remember I used to do that. I would do the math, and as opposed to like, I'd be like, okay, I have to run this many seconds per. I wouldn't do 400. Like if I was running on a track, it'd be every 100 meters. I would know. I forgot what it came out to be, like 20 seconds. Does that sound right? Maybe every 20 seconds per every 100
For
meter.
100%, I'd probably be, that's a little fast.
Oh, maybe it's like 20, 21, 22 seconds, something like that.
Yeah.
I would normally shoot for like somewhere between a 9. Well, it used to be like a 9:36 back in the day was maxing it for, so 9 minutes 36 seconds for a mile and a half. But then they lowered it, I think, and it like came down to like 9:12 or something like that.
Yeah, it was 9:12 for a little bit right when I was at that age range as well, and then they raised it again. I think it's at 9:20 now for like the absolute youngest bracket for 100%.
Yeah, because dude, when they made that switch, like I could get 9:36, like that was within my capability every time. When they lowered it to 9:12, that was difficult. I think I only ended up doing it, it would always be like hit or miss. I'd get like really close, be like 9:17, or like or I'd get it at like 9:10. So anyway, I used to have to do the math, is what I was saying, and like I'd hit the lap button on like a Timex every 100 meters and be like, oh, too slow, speed up a little bit on this next one. Oh, too fast, slow down. If I had a Garmin, I could just be looking at the pace thing the whole time, just like, yeah, you're on pace. Keep doing what you're doing.
I've never actually done like the math of, because it's weird. It's weird because it's like you're looking at your per mile pace, but you're running a mile and a half. So it's like, okay, I have to like.
No, I think you can switch that in Garmin. I think you could probably
you can
set
make
the goal distance, right? Yeah, a mile and a half.
Now I've actually finally figured out my per quarter mile, or my well, not necessarily my splits, but I know my mile pace for my goal. So I think I just want to run under 10, sub 10, which is still pretty hard. And I gotta look at what, because this will be the first year I'm in the 35 age bracket, which
old
makes
man
my time a little. Yeah, it's like nine. It's still like 9:49 for 100% or something like that. It's like 9:47 or something.
Still
either way, yeah. And so like I'm just going for sub 10, and that means I have to run at a 6:40 for a mile and a half, which is still pretty hard.
Yeah.
But today it felt strong. Today that was like my lowest point, and then I would look at my watch and I'm like, oh, 6:40. I'm like, okay, and I just sped up, and it was fine.
Nice.
But I got to string a couple quarter miles together.
Good luck on that Air Force PT test.
Yeah,
I only test my fitness of my own accord these days, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I actually, because of my wrist, I think I might have to do them on my knuckles, which is authorized. And whenever they briefed it, I'm like, who the hell is going to do freaking knuckle push-ups? Just do regular push-ups. Now I'm like, I'm that guy.
Yeah. I had a buddy who did that. Like he's actually incredibly fit, but he hurt his wrist pretty bad. And he had to do like 2 or 3 PT tests in a row on his knuckles. And he would still max it. Impressive.
I'll see how it goes.
Hey, the trick is you got to put your thumb on the ground a little bit like this.
Okay. Stable?
Yeah. Just so you know. Now you got it. Because
That's
otherwise it's just kind of painful. If you have the thumb there, it like alleviates just enough pressure to where it's like, okay, I can still crank him out.
Okay. Good tip. I need that. How's your post ultra training? Free from running. You just you've thrown the running shoes in the back of the closet, cover them up.
Yeah. I ran 1 mile yesterday. That's all I've run since the ultra.
Yep, still got it.
Well, I just wanted to shake it out. I want to do a little shakeout run. It was like a warm up. But interestingly, now kind of updating everybody, I took it super easy on the first week post ultra. I did some of the hard to kill workouts, but I didn't do all of them, and I kind of went lower on the intensity. And this is just lessons learned from my life in general. Like, I have a tendency to jump into things too fast, too hard, hurt myself, whatever. So I'm trying to be really smart about that. But what I was noticing, and this was strange, is like my resting heart rate typically is in like the mid 40s. So like anywhere, let's just say 44 to 46 is typically my resting heart rate, like when I'm asleep. And I got back. So race finished technically Sunday morning. Resting heart rate was higher. Monday, it was still a little bit high. I think it was like 51, 52, something like that. And then Tuesday it was down to 46. And I was like, oh, damn, I'm like fully recovered. And then I started getting in the sauna every night like I normally do. And my resting heart rate started spiking the rest of the week. And I would not feel good after the sauna. Like normally the sauna, I don't have necessarily like a feeling after the sauna, like it's just, I feel relaxed and like whatever. I was feeling bad after I would get out of the sauna. Like I didn't feel good. And then my resting heart rate was super erratic. And then it was high for like 3 or 4 days. So I don't know. Honestly, I mean, I know why, but I don't know why. Like I don't know the true mechanism, but something was going on last week to where I was not fully recovered. Like my muscles were recovered, my body felt good, but like maybe cardiovascularly, I was not fully recovered. There was some sort of internal mechanism to where I just was not all the way recovered. And so I just listened to my resting heart rate, took it a little bit easy last week. And now this week, things are looking like they're back to normal and I'm jumping back into things. But it's just, you really have to listen to your body. I think that's just like the biggest thing. I've ignored listening to my body for a long time, and I'm trying to get smarter about doing that. Playing the long game, like, hey, if you take it easy this week, like it's fine. Like you're just going to hop back into regular fitness the next week. So anyway, something weird was going on with my recovery other than like no injuries, no muscle soreness, nothing hurt. It was just something like a deep level of recovery that wasn't there. And I could just tell through my resting heart rate primarily. So I took it easy last week.
Yeah, I don't really focus or hyper focus that much on my wearables anymore, but I still like having that data to fall back on because if I am feeling something, then I can be like, okay, now I'm really going to dive in deep, see if there is something like on one of my numbers. And once I see that and I'm feeling it, then I'm like, okay, this is kind of justification. Maybe I do need to dial it back to this, that, and the other. Because there's times where, especially like either traveling or something, when I just don't feel like wearing my Aura ring or charging it or something. I'm like, do I even need this anymore? But then there's times where it's nice to be like, oh, okay, my heart rate, my resting heart rate was up the other couple of nights, or my body temperature. That one really, it's like, oh shoot, I was a degree hotter the last 2 nights.
Yeah, and I mean, it could be anything too. It's like maybe like I have all these theories, but it's like, what if doing an ultra or even just training too hard, we've gone over this on the podcast, has the ability to lower your immune system, right? So let's just say, lower my immune system through running an ultra marathon, come home to kids who just basically collect germs all day at school. And so who knows, maybe because it was weird that I was like fully recovered from all my metrics on Tuesday, but then like it started later in the week. That doesn't really make as much sense to like, if I was really jacked up from the ultra, I feel like it should have happened. Like I should have never really recovered. There shouldn't have been like, oh, you got recovered and then you aren't recovered. I think maybe I was fighting something off, like you're saying. Like I think I came home, maybe caught something, and my body was just fighting it. So anyway, I took it easy, and now I'm back to it this week and feeling pretty good. I'm just enjoying training. Again, like I said, I've put in 1 mile, and I ran that mile, and I was like, I just don't want to run. I still don't. Like I thought maybe I was like, but and it's not that I don't want to do conditioning. Like if you are aware of what's going on the hard to co track, like there's a monostructural intervals day on there. That's why I was asking if that's what you were doing with your 400s or whatever. But ultimately, I'm going to be doing those things on the rower and the bike and not running. Still taking that break.
Yeah, pretty much. I have dedicated run days, and I don't really do running on any other days.
Yeah,
but it's nice to have an Airdyne, so you need to get one of those.
I am getting an Airdyne. I've decided. I will
in a month.
Yeah, when I move, I will pull the trigger on getting an Airdyne. It's just such a good piece of equipment. Like it's just so good. You can go so hard on it. It's kind of like the rower. Like it involves upper body and lower body. Not as much upper body as like a rower would, but it's full body, very hard to hurt yourself on, and can still like punish you. Such a good piece of equipment.
I'll be excited to hear what you get. I think I know, but we'll see.
Do you want me to tell you?
I mean, you don't need to.
Okay, we'll save it. I gotta save the content. All right, let's get into this study. So again, this document is titled "Physiological Characteristics of a 92-Year-Old 4-Time World Champion Indoor Rower," and really, it's looking at, like I said, Richard Morgan. And when you first sent this to me, you just kind of catch the highlights, and at first I was like, like, is this guy just like this elite rower who like rowed his whole life and then like surprisingly he's fit at 92? I was like, I don't know if I'm interested, because
Mhm.
that's not motivating for people to be like, hey, if you are fit your whole life, then one day later in life, if something weird doesn't kill you, you can still be fit. And that's where I thought this story was going to go. But Richard Morgan didn't start rowing until the age of 73. That's what's so fascinating and what's crazy about this story, because he was a banker and a chemical operator. He lives in Ireland. So let's dive into it. I have quite a few takeaways and stuff, but I want to hear, ultimately you picked this study for us to do. I want to hear like why you thought this was interesting, and then as you read through the study, anything you found that was cool.
Yeah, and when I first saw it, because I saw it was shared on, I think it was a thread on social media somewhere, and I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting, and I had my um, skeptical moments or thoughts as well. But then as I read more about it, I'm like, oh, well, this guy's basically doing concurrent training. And what he does is a lot of what we talk about and a lot of what we preach. And oh, he didn't start until he's 73. That's pretty interesting and crazy. And like, it's just one of those things where it's never too late. And it's like I almost want to show this study to like my parents or somebody else. I'm like, hey, here, look, see, this guy's doing
Exactly.
it. Like,
Like that. I mean, that's why I think this podcast episode in general is so cool in this study, because I think everybody has that person in their life where it's like maybe they think it's too late, or they just, like what's really possible. So anything's possible as it shows.
yeah, then I'm just like, and then reading what he's done and his times and everything, I'm just like, man, life goals right now. Like, do I need to just like aspire to this is like the goal now?
But should we like stop exercising and not pick it up until 72, because like maybe his body had a little bit more
one of
cartilage left in the joints, so
one of, one of
he's good to
one of my
go.
notes is there a case to not do too much activity too young?
There could be, man. I'm feeling that. Like I have definitely burned the candle at both ends with my body pretty early on, and I think it's caused me to regret some things as I get older, but nothing crazy. Like I don't have any crazy injuries or anything, but I do think going too hard too young is something to pay attention to.
Yeah, I know I need to do more preventative stuff like mobility, and especially with my hips and all that. I think it'll pay off easier now than it will later. It's just hard. One of those hard things to get started. But yeah, I loved what I saw from the study, especially when it gets into the training program and the intensity breakdown. There's only one nitpicky thing that I wish they did with it, but everything else I thought it was really cool. And it's we call it a study. It's basically just an analysis of this
Yeah.
92-year-old man's life and his like documented, like really breaking down the science of how he did it and why and all that.
Yeah, the only thing I couldn't pick up that I wish I would have picked up from the study was a lot more of the why why he started and decided to get so competitive and aggressive. Like I didn't get as much of that from this. Every did you find that in there? I didn't see. Yeah.
No, it's pretty much just the science sum up of
Yeah.
everything.
And so I know that's not normally what science cares about, but it would be nice to know if like he had a grandkid and that inspired him, or if he, just decided one day, or maybe that was when he retired and he's like, what am I going to do with all my free time? Like I have no idea on the why he started, because to me that's the most important question to be answered. Because if you do have anyone in your life who is older and does not exercise, you could talk to them about exercise until you're blue in the face, but it doesn't matter, because if they won't start and stick to it, then that's the problem. So I really like to know the internal motivators here. But other than that, let's kind of break down a little bit about the how impressive this guy was. So they call him a world champion indoor rower, but he didn't start rowing until the age of 73. So obviously he was rowing in age specific rowing competitions, like age brackets, right? Just so everybody knows, it's not like he's out there crushing other world competitors 50 years younger than him or anything. But still impressive nonetheless. He won titles at World Rowing Indoor Championships in 2007, 2017, 2021, and 2022. So also the span of those is pretty insane to me, because like 2007, then like he didn't win another one for 10 years, and then he won one in 2021, and then as recently as 2022. So that was really impressive. It looks like you mentioned concurrent training, resistance training was a big part of what he did. And then he would also row at least 30K per week, which is not crazy in my opinion. Like, I mean, I think it might be hard for some people listening to this to get it in 30K per week, but depending on how you break it down, that could be 3 days of training, or it could be 5 days of training where you do do it every single day. So he did a lot of resistance training. He would row at least 30K per week, and he thought it was very important to have a high protein diet, which I think is something that, especially as you age, is incredibly important. And his VO2 max was congruent or better than people the age of 25. Yes. Values reported for individuals around 25 years of age. So his VO2 max was on par with 25-year-olds. Probably not 25-year-old elite rowers, but like just 25-year-olds who, have a naturally high VO2 max and do some training. What else did you get? Anything else that they may have missed?
Yeah, I like the high protein diet was really cool, and he has pretty high muscle mass for his body, and he was still sitting at 15% fat mass, which I think is a pretty good ratio. That's like in a really healthy
awesome
category. I think I probably sit around that, but just thinking about, like we've talked about in other studies about older people, as you get older, lean mass goes down, and non-lean mass, whether it's fat mass, whether it's just whatever else, would go up. So like that is pretty important to highlight, and something to strive for. He's 75 kilograms. That's about 165 pounds. I think what I put. He's eating about 2,400 calories a day. That's pretty significant. That's all close to my maintenance calories or something. So he's eating a lot, and I think that's also important because he's rowing. He needs that nutrition, all that that protein. So it's not just like he's getting on a rower. Like he's dialed in. They said he's been extremely consistent with his diet for that entire time as well. So those are kind of some really interesting points that I wanted to make note as well.
Yeah, and just where did I'm just gonna ask that question in my mind until I can reach out to him. Like, just what, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, he was a baker and a chemical operator, and he started rowing at 73, and then all of a sudden he's like, and no doubt, I mean, he probably had discipline. Like, I don't know a lot about bakers or chemical operators, but from my own assessment, baker has to wake up early. Like, a baker has to start early in the day. So like, probably had a ton of discipline already. Chemical operator probably needed a ton of attention to detail, and then he just like flipped this switch, because it did say he had no structured training before the age of 73. It's not like, I'm trying to get to the point where they talk about that specifically, but yeah, he had no he did not engage in any structured training or exercise. His background includes working as a baker and a chemical operator before his retirement. Yeah. So anyway, he didn't really exercise. I'm sure he was just focused on his job. I think being a baker is probably fairly more active than like a desk job. And I don't know anything about what a chemical operator does. I actually tried to look that up. And it sounds like a plant job kind of to me. You know what I mean? Like,
it doesn't sound like he's not like he was a technically, or I don't know if it might be technically blue collar, but nothing like really high labor intensive. But it might just be like some sort of machinery, or I was even thinking like a driver of some sort of machinery. Yeah, but Baker, you're on your feet a lot. You're moving your hands a lot. You are doing things, but you're not like lifting weights or anything.
Yeah, and I also think he selected a phenomenal activity, to be honest, because I don't think we would be reading or talking about Richard Morgan if he had picked up running. And I know I feel like I'm picking on running a lot, but I just realistically, running is tough on your body. just like that impact force. It's not a low impact activity. And like we were just talking about with the Airdyne is something that you can go really hard with a very low risk of. It's like very hard to get injured on an Airdyne unless you like go so hard you slip off of it and fall. Like I feel like that might be the only real way you can get injured on an Airdyne. And it's similar to rowing. Like it's very hard to get. The only thing that you can really hurt on a rower is your hands. Like from being on the rower too long, you get blisters or like whatever. So these low impact places like to exercise or to do your aerobic conditioning or something to keep in mind too, because like I said, I don't think we'd be reading about him if he had decided, hey, I'm going to run. Because I think at picking up running at 73 years old, while I don't think it's a bad deal, it's he probably had a little bit harder on his body if he was a plant worker and baker, and then to like go run probably be too much on his body, and he may have like end up hurting himself. And coming back from an injury at 73, I can only imagine. Like we're not talking like a couple weeks. We're talking about a couple years if you hurt something. And so I think he also made a phenomenal choice at his exercise selection, choosing rowing. That's a great idea. And I don't know what spurred him. He made all the right choices. And I don't know, like, it's just crazy to me.
And like who advised him on like the intensity splits? Did you go much into that yet? Like, cause
no,
that was
like,
yeah. So like he did 70% of his training is at low intensity. 20% of his training is at high intensity, and only 10% is at max sprint intensities. And like I'm curious as to how he reached that, because that's kind of what we do. I mean, maybe not as much low intensity. We'll probably do a little bit more mid than just low, but still, like that's a great breakdown. Then the 2 days of resistance training, and his resistance training was the reps were close to failure, so like probably 1 or 2 reps in reserve, which also we've read several studies which say that how great that is for training.
Well, it makes me wonder if you just think about it. Like we're relatively young. We've been training from a young age, and we're looking at the science and how to do things, to the best of our ability. And so we kind of follow these rules and everything. But I think as you age, to be honest, what probably dictates his training is not science or mental toughness. I bet it's just energy. Like, and so I wonder if he wasn't advised by anyone, or he doesn't have like a son or daughter who happens to be in like strength and conditioning and gave him basically the perfect program to follow and told him about his diet. Like, I feel like maybe this was intuitive. Because if you think about it, I'm just trying to put myself in this situation. If I'm 73 and I put, I'm like, all right, I'm going to start rowing. And I might just be like, I'm tired most days, so I'm just going to go easy. That's what in all honesty, like that's what I think may have happened. He's just like, and then he has that 1 day a week to where he's like, okay, I'm going to go hard today. And it's going to kind of equate to these breakdowns that you're talking about. So part of me thinks it was just intuition. And then same with lifting. I remember when I first started lifting, like first ever session, my dad had this old bench press in our garage that we had bought. No one ever used it. It was super cheap. I mean, like you probably couldn't load more than 150 pounds on this bench without it breaking. It was just like it was
like
low.
Those plastic weights that have like sand in them.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. It wasn't a real barbell. Like if you loaded one side just like 5 pounds heavier than the other side, the bar is going to flip over. So really low quality setup. But either way, when I decided I was going to work out, one of my first training sessions was on this bench press. I didn't really know what to do. And so I would just go to failure every single time. I did like 5 sets to failure. I just would get on the bench press. I would, with no spotter, I would bench till failure, till I could not lift it up again. Then I would lean the bar over, let the weights flip off on both sides. Cause it's not like, I'm not bench pressing like 300 pounds, right? It was probably like in all reality, maybe, I have no idea. Maybe it's 50 pounds. Maybe it's 30 pounds. I have no idea. Could have been 60. I don't know. But either way, it wasn't like dangerous to me back then. It was just like, well, I don't have a spotter. This is how I'll get the weights off. And so I would just flip them off both sides. But my whole point to that is intuitively, I was just going to failure every single time because I didn't know anything about rep ranges or percentages or weights or anything. I was just like, well, I assume I'll just go until I can't anymore. So I just wonder if all the decisions he made, other than nutrition, just on the training side, I wonder if they were intuitive. He could have hired a coach or something like that. But on the nutrition side, I don't think nutrition is intuitive for almost anyone. Like, I don't think eating a lot of protein, like maybe to some degree that's intuitive, but the fact that he ate as many calories as you're talking about and he was sure to get enough protein, I just feel like he had to have been coached or read something. It's not like he can't, go read a book, right? I'm not saying it just, where did it all come from? He made a lot of great choices.
He may have one distinct advantage because he's so old. He's probably not on social media. He's probably not getting over too much information. He's probably going back to what he heard in the 70s and was like, you know what? I'm going to do a little bit of this. I'm going to do a little bit of what I feel. And I'm going to ask a few questions. And then that's good.
Yeah. That's where, like, back in the day, if a fit guy in the gym told you something, that was gold. You write that shit down. That's like, yeah, that's probably what he's like going back. He's like, oh, I remember this guy said this thing and I will never forget it. Yeah. But apparently he didn't really go to the gym that much back then. All right. Anything else from this one?
No, there was one quote that I thought was kind of cool. It says the training regimen undertaken by him for his 20-year engagement in rowing could be described as pyramidal and concurrent. They specifically use concurrent.
100%. Strength training is super important there.
The only, and then the one negative that I alluded to earlier that I wish they did was no blood work. Not even like cholesterol, not any sort of blood work. I wish like that would have been the simplest thing to just take one cursory fasted blood panel just to see what your levels are just to be interesting. It wouldn't have really mattered that much, but it would have still been interesting because I'm sure he's in the very, very good side of everything.
Yeah, maybe he drew the line at blood work. He's like, nope, not doing it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I kind of want to end with just talking about that. My biggest takeaway here, yes, it's concurrent training, but also the real biggest takeaway for me is it's never too late to start. Okay, the dude started at 73, is winning world championships up until 92, right? This is just incredible. So if you have anybody in your life, like I said, we all do, you just try and encourage them to get started, and I know I'm going to continue to do the same. And I pulled some people like in business too, who got late starts, and just to kind of add fuel to this fire, like, so Richard Morgan here, who we're talking about, obviously in the fitness world, started at the age of 73, did amazing things. Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, he was 52 years old when he joined McDonald's and ended up stealing all of their ideas and profiting from it greatly. But anyway, he started when he was 52. Harland Sanders, do you know who that is?
No.
Colonel Sanders, KFC.
Yeah, well.
He started at the age of 65. I didn't know his first name until I looked it up. So I thought I'd quiz you.
It's a fitting first name.
Yeah, he didn't start until the age of 65. Let's see, Charles Flint, who's ultimately the father and creator of IBM, started at 61 years old. Ariana Huffington started the Huffington Post at the age of 55. So she was 55 when she started that in 2005. So just some pretty interesting things. Like, it's never too late to start, whether that's fitness, whether that's business, whether that's your side hustle, whatever it is, it's never too late to start. And I think if you have something that you want to achieve, something you want to go after, you have to follow all the principles that we've talked about on this podcast for years: killing comfort, getting good at doing things that you don't want to, one day at a time, get 100 days in a row, like build from there, just like keep going. But ultimately, if you're listening to this now and you are, a little bit older, don't let that discourage you. Doesn't mean that you just have to train like the young guys, but you can do something. You can get out there and do something. And then also, if you want to start something in business or venture or whatever, there's no reason that you can't get started today and be successful. But that's all I got for this one.
In 7 years, when Liz retires from the military and we move to Texas, Jerred, that's when you and I can really start working on something.
That's when it will really start to shine.
Like we're just warming up.
I'm saving myself, to be honest. I don't want to burn out too early. And in all honesty, I feel like I've kind of done that throughout my life. Like mainly because I can't, like my kids are like my governor. Like I've never been able to, well, I mean, I've always had kids ever since I've been an entrepreneur, at least. And then same with, I haven't always had kids since I've been training, but like I've had kids for a long time now. And I would say I don't want to say they've held me back, but they've limited me. Like they've been my governor from
kept you in check.
Yeah, from going overboard, essentially. Like because family is so important to me that I don't work these super crazy hours as an entrepreneur, and I don't have time to train. Like I just finished all that ultra training. I barely had time to do anything that I was supposed to, like a 3-hour long run, a 2-hour long run. No, I don't have time for that. We have games that start at 8 a.m. on Saturday. Like I just don't have time for these things, and I'm okay with it. Could I make time? Sure. Could I sacrifice my health to stay up later and wake up earlier? Sure. But I don't want to. I've always kind of had that governor being my kids, and so they've probably saved me from quite a bit.
Yep.
Cool. Well, we'll get out of here. Hopefully you took something away from this one. Send it to friends or loved ones. If you want to be a part of our training, what concurrent training is like, and can help you be complete badass up to the age of 92 at least, go to garagegymathlete.com, sign up for a free trial. We'd love to have you. And then for any of our athletes doing the training, hope you're enjoying the cycle, especially all of you who are on the hard to kill track. I know I am happy to be jumping back into that from where I have been. A lot of fun, a lot of new things to be working on. But that's it for this one. Remember, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you.